Welcome to Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson, the podcast where we head down the road of the supernatural and beyond. So sit back and hold on as we take a ride together to what lies in the unknown and beyond the veil. Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson presents guest host, author, and historian Terje G. Simonsen. Terje is a Norwegian historian of ideas and a non-fiction author, specializing in the esoteric and occult. Since childhood, he has been fascinated by magical phenomena such as telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, and healing, an interest based on some peculiar experiences of his own, as well as strange stories told by family and friends. Later, this fascination led to extensive forays into esoteric and occult traditions and also into the science about such phenomena, such as parapsychology. The result is his present book, A Short History of Nearly Everything Paranormal. Today, he works as a freelance writer. And now your host, Daniel Jackson, with Our Secret Powers, Telepathy, Clairvoyance, and Precognition.
Welcome to Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson. Me, Daniel Jackson. Today we have Mr. Terje Simonsen, and Terje is more or less a historian of the spiritual realm, of the paranormal. Terje, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Daniel. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm glad to have you here because after reading your bio, after looking everything over, and then looking you up online, like I said, you are pretty much a historian of all this stuff. I am a spirit medium, and I deal with what is in the now, but because I don't need to really concentrate on the history of it, because I do readings for people, and I have to get them answers for what's going on in their lives now. But that doesn't mean people shouldn't know what has taken place in the past, what has taken place in the past to get us to where we are now. And I think a lot of people just do the same thing. They concentrate on the information that's of now, and they don't really go back into the history of it. But I know you are basically a historian of that. So if you can, tell my audience what it is that you do.
Well, you have summed up some of it quite nicely. So I'm a historian of ideas, and in my research, I have focused on, say, esoteric and spiritual tradition, occultism, Hermeticism, Sufi, Kabbalah, Gnosticism, Neoplatonism, and all that kind of esoteric tradition, which are important part of our history, but not so, say, not that recognized within the main community. For instance, in Christianity, you have the Christian mystics, and the people know about them, but it's a bit off the beaten track. And also in Judaism, lots of Jews have heard about the Kabbalah, but not so many have really delved into it seriously. And same with lots of Muslims. They have heard about Sufism, but not very many have gone really deep into it and that kind. So I tend to focus on these traditions that are important, but a bit overlooked in, say, the bigger societies where they stem from. Yes, that's correct. but oh yes, that's quite correct. And but I follow my interest, as you say, detective. You follow the traces that are hot in a way. So when I started to read about some, say, interesting person or some interesting phenomenon or something, I follow that and I go behind and what is his or her sources, and that phenomenon was part of that tradition, but where does that tradition hail from? And so I somehow, as you describe it, detecting the network and the circumstances and surroundings of the different, say, occult and esoteric traditions and phenomena and teachers and traditions. Well, it's not so easy to say always, but some interesting experiences of my own, and also trusted friends and family in a Christian community I was part of, they told me about strange thing, seeing other places and, seeing the future in dreams and asking God for some specific help in, say, a difficult situation, and suddenly some kind of small miracle appearing, and that kind of stories that, say, the normal official way of looking at life did not have any good explanatory model for. So, and nothing wrong about the Christian community I was a part of, but still their explanation was tended to be also limited in a way, because if some strange phenomenon happened, it had to be either God or the devil,
Right, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's one or the other, and either way, they were trying to just cover it up, no matter what.
Well, yeah, or at least somehow pressure it into a kind of limiting belief system, I felt, because many of these phenomena, they are basically quite neutral, and at least they don't have to be, say, merely good or merely evil. I feel it was somehow, as I said, limiting, unnecessary limiting. So I studied other traditions and way of exploring these. I then went into magic, for instance, and also the different, in Norway, there's quite strong tradition for anthroposophy, which is the theosophical variety stemming from Austrian teacher Rudolf Steiner. Many people have probably heard about the Waldorf school, spiritual school for education and for agriculture and medicine and dance and, So this famous tradition after this Rudolf Steiner, Austrian teacher, a great guy, doctor in philosophy, but also a true spiritual medium. So he combined, say, the academic traditions with his direct insight in these phenomena. And in Norway, that had been quite influential because many artists and dedicated what is called a cultural, what is called that, kulturarbeider. Well, I don't know the specific English word for that, but people working within, say, journals and in publishing, and yeah. So in the kind of public cultural sphere in Norway, many of them were inspired because they felt, say, traditional Christianity was too limiting, but at the same time, they were not at all atheists. So they find that somehow Rudolf Steiner's version of Christianity gave enough space to somehow, what you can say, grasp the totality they were looking for.
So hopefully that has nothing to do with something like, that made up stuff like Hogwarts and all that stuff. But I'm sure when she probably wrote her books, she probably took some type of inspiration from he himself and the school that he had.
I can clearly imagine that. I was a bit disappointed because she said she does not really believe in these phenomena, and right. I was, as I said, I felt, oh no, and here we were on the right track, and then suddenly, but okay, yeah, well, at least she has expanded the imaginary room for people. So
right, right, yeah. But I mean, it's unfortunate that she probably just doesn't believe in it, but she decided to make a whole boatload of money off of it, and they exploit it sometimes. And I find that also disappointing as well. But I've had some experience with that. I don't know if I could call it magic, but I've had an experience with that where I woke up from a dream one time, and but in the dream, there was this woman in my dream, and she kept saying this word to me all the time. She had her hand above a table and a piece of paper on the table. And I was watching the piece of paper, and she was moving her hand, and she was spinning this piece of paper. And I kept hearing this word, cantations, in my mind. Cantations. And I was like, what is going on here? And then I woke up from the dream. I went into my wife's office and was just sitting down talking to her about it. I said, can you look that up and tell me what it is? And she said, all I'm coming up with is incantations. It's a sort of magic. I was like, yes. Okay. So I was talking to her a little bit. I got up. Now here's the crazy part. I walked into the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator. I saw a bowl of cherries in there, and I thought to myself, I'd like to have a bowl of cherries. And when I did that, the damn bowl just came flying at me, and I caught it in my hands, and I was like, what the heck just happened there? And I went back to my wife and told her about it, and I was like, it's just like it was in my dream. But I said, I didn't say out loud I wanted the cherries. I just thought it in my mind. It happened. And I was like, that's kind of crazy. And then I thought to myself, how could that happen? But I know with being a medium, we can make things happen by using our connecting with our soul. We could probably, we could most likely heal ourselves and do many other things, but just didn't expect it to happen. And I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. How do I do it again? But it was such a pure thought. That's how.
Yes, understand. Yes. I have also the interesting story. I have also had seen things in my dreams that later have appeared, and so I think when we are in our sleep, our mental filters are on a small vacation, and then we get more open to say the wider field of information.
Yeah, because when I go into meditation, just kind of like in dreams, as my spiritual guides tell me that in order to get clear messages, you must have a clear mind.
Yeah, exactly.
So
they're spot on.
No, that's
my claim to fame is this book. I don't know if you have mentioned that for our viewers.
No, but we'll mention it at the end of the video, and then at the end of at the beginning and the end of the broadcast. But absolutely. So tell us about the book. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but.
But a central, tenet of my book is what I call the mental internet, which is, modern take on this vast field of collective consciousness that we are a part of and connected with. And that is, if we first somehow grasp that conception, many of these phenomena will be so much easier to implement and deal with, because we tend to somehow think of consciousness just inside my head or inside your head or so. But as you started the program, or before we started the program, that somehow your consciousness is ever present in a way. So and if we just or in a somewhat similar manner as the electronic internet is ever present, and then you can, of course, download information, and you can send telepathic emails and all that's wonderful stuff. So it's therefore the central idea in my book is what I call this mental internet, because after that thought is in place, it's so much more easy to, as I said, deal with and implement the other phenomena.
Sure, kind of like I tell people this happens all the time, but they don't realize it's happening. They just think, oh, it was magic. Like when they think about someone, and they think about someone all day, and then the next thing you know, that person calls you on the telephone. This is a mental thing. It's going on between the two of you, and then you think of the idea, oh, I'm thinking about that person. I missed them, and all of a sudden they call you on the telephone and go, I was just thinking about you. I think that
exactly. That is a very common experience, and also. As a researcher within that, I can tell you that has been experimented with by a famous biologist, a British biologist called Rupert Sheldrake. He's written about that. He calls it telephone telepathy, and and it's also been and it's also been researched at the University of Freiburg in Germany, and also University of Amsterdam in Holland. So, and they have found it's what is called significant, statistically speaking. I can give our viewers a short, a presentation of that. If you have one person and he or she get 4 different phones, and there are 4 different friends that will on specific times call that person, and that person is before taking any of the phones is to tell the research team who's calling. And because there are 4 friends that are calling, and the chances should be 1 out of 4, 25% to make a hit. But a long series of experiments have shown that the result for normal people, not gurus, not psychics, not mediums, and totally normal people, they score not 25. I think you are bit gifted beyond the average, aren't you? Yeah. So at least what should be expected is a hit rate of 25%, but sure. In fact what they get is 40%. So it's a strongly significant, and that's people taken just out of ordinary daily life, not doing meditation or having had kind of revelations or very gifted psychic family or anything like that.
Right, absolutely. So I'm reading here. I have a quick question, pretty much. What are the sources of inspiration that have been pretty much brought to you that help you to want to continue to do this?
Yeah, a great question. Well, own experiences. I would. As a researcher, of course, one should always be a bit careful to somehow rush to conclusions, but I have had quite a lot of experiences of telepathy myself. I've seen the future many times myself, and also have clairvoyant visions of other places a couple of times myself, and that kind of experiences, and also lots of trusted people, friends and family. My grandfather, he was able to hear my grandmother half an hour before she was coming home, and that was back in the day before the mobile phone, and there were no, say, normal way for him to know she could come home 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, but he would always hear her before she was approaching home, about half an hour, and then he went to the stove and put on the dinner, because then she would be right around the corner. That kind of things. And also aunt of mine and her daughter, they were having quite strong telepathic connection. So I could give you an example that, for instance, one of them was in another town, the other was sleeping, and something special happened to the person being in this other town, and this other person in our hometown sleeping would experience the same episode in the dream as the other person experienced in the wake condition. So they had a kind of telepathic hotline, lots of kind of that stories. And I met also some people, professional psychics. Some were very impressive and some were not so impressive. So I learned somehow to distinguish between those who just want to make themselves interesting and those who really have opened these channels. So
I get some telepathic messages from a spirit themselves. Like sometimes I was sitting in bed one time and I saw these two standing right above me, and they were talking to each other, and I got to hear the conversation. And one of them said to the other guy, because they sees the light around me, and he says, "Hey, I think I'm gonna go in." And the other one said, "Oh, I can't go in." And he said, "Why not?" And he said, "Because I murdered 2 people." And the other guy was like, "Well, I'm going in. See you later." And then I saw that one spirit standing there, and I said, "Hey, buddy, you can go in anytime you want to." And he just looked at me. I said, "Yeah, there's a voice coming out of this light. It's okay." And then once you felt comfortable with it, I said, "You can cross over anytime you want to." And he was like, "I can't. I killed 2 people." I said, "Yeah, but you can still go. You just have to have the willingness to want to go." And he was like, "Oh, I'll think about it." And then he just turned around and walked away. But I get them all the time. I get voices, and that's the way we think we are hearing it, but we're not actually hearing it. It's actual telepathy thing. I was putting up some blinds in my room here to make it very dark so I could see some more things, because I could see them in the day, but I can see them much more in the dark. And this woman came through, and I heard right in my mind, she said, "Hey, nice blinds, babe." And I went, "Well, yeah, because I got to be able to see you better." And then she showed herself to me. And then I was like, "Wow." I said, "You're very pretty. You got some nice tailored eyebrows there." And she said, "Thank you." And I said, "Do you want to cross over?" She said, "No." She turned around, walked away. I was like, "Okay." But that's the way it happens for me all the time. But that's not what I do for people. I connect with my spirit guides, which are archangels, and I'm just here to help people to get other people on the correct path in their lives and get the messages that way. I mean, I'm I'm not the type of medium that connects with your mom and dad per se. I can get information about them and I can see them, but it's about angels telling me to tell them things so they can get on the correct path, so we can all get on the correct path. But it works differently for everybody. We all
it is.
We all have abilities, but we're similar, but not the same.
Yes, quite good description. That is also what I have. As you say, some people get a feeling of hearing this, but it's not hearing. It's the technical term is clairaudience, of course, and you have clairvoyance, but some people have more or less just this gut feeling, and that can be just as precise.
Absolutely.
Really. Yes. So the different, I've discussed this quite a lot with some experienced psychics, and very often they have problems somehow locating which sense gave this information, because it's what they call synesthesia. Somehow it all the sensory crosstalk in a way. So suddenly you see a picture, you get this feeling, you get this taste, even you get so it's a kind of So it's basically it comes down to decoding telepathic information by using your normal senses.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. The way that I am in contact with spirits, I see them, hear them, feel them, smell them, taste them, everything. They bring it all to all my senses, so that way I'm able to decipher it one way or the other. So that's just the way it works. But that's the way it works for me too. But that doesn't work the same way for everybody. But because I see spirit 24/7, it just never turns off. I see everything from people, the dogs, cats, horses, cows, fish, other beings from other places, because we're not the only world with people in it. But I know some other mediums who don't see anything. They don't see any actual spirit in front of them all the time, and they tell me they don't want to see it because it would scare the crap out of them. But they're just people, or they're just dogs, or something like that. Why is it? Unless it's the negative ones that I see when they come through, they actually glow red, and I know what they are at that time. But but even if a dog talks to me, the thing about it's strange for me is because one of my main abilities is I cross spirit over into the light, and I cross them over. But sometimes they ask me questions, so I get the answers from my guides, and then they tell me, and I tell them, and then I walk them through. But if a dog talks to me, I hear it in English. If a giraffe talks to me, I hear it in English. That's just the way it is for me. But I know some mediums who say when they talk to someone who is Spanish, sometimes all they can hear is the Spanish. I'm like, man, that's too bad.
Yes.
But for me, it's like a universal language all the time.
Yes, it is. So it's basically it is basically information.
Yes.
And that information will be translated into different, both say sensory languages and also,
So you yourself, do you actually ever go on what people would call like a ghost hunt or something like that? Or is that just
I am interested what I apart from describing the phenomena, and again, my book has lots of good stories and anecdotes with celebrities and famous scientists and experiencing things they were not able to understand, and somehow rewriting their life story in light of these experiences. So I'm interested in somehow expanding people's horizon by telling all these stories, and also giving some scientific perspectives, because in light of quantum physics, it's possible to somehow be more inclusive towards these phenomena than Newtonian physics. But also I'm interested in what we could call the Jungian perspective. Somehow I think we are in a process of learning, and these phenomena can be helpful guides on the way. So it's signposts, and somehow learn to use this expanded language and somehow what is called interpret the science in not in a way that makes you neurotic, but somehow is helpful and gives you a guiding light on your path, and also help developing. So it's more that I feel people tend often to be, which could be good for start, but they are fascinated by the horror aspect. Oh, it's the thrill, it's like any kind of say exciting story, or it's the entertainment aspect. And nothing wrong with that. Many people, nice hosts running shows, and I know several of them personally, but somehow it's much more to it than that. And that aspect of, as I said, guide towards a bigger perspective on life and on self and our task here in this world. That is my main goal.
Yeah, because I used to watch the TV shows, but I don't have to anymore because it's just my life now. But yeah, it's just the same TV show over and over again. I always find it fascinating how they walk into a room and they get scared by something, but then 5 or 6 episodes later, they're still scared by the same thing. You would think they would just get used to it and go, oh, it's another spirit, you know?
Yes.
But again, what does it do? It causes high ratings, which sells commercials.
Exactly.
Money, you know, and what do movies do? They sell tickets and makes money because they make money off of the people's fear, and they know that they can do this, so. But I wish that they would understand it. The unfortunate part about TV shows and movies is they brought us a lot of things that are actually not real, but they still use these not real things to get us excited enough to watch the TV show.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's some of the same concern I have. So, but as we have had some of the shows in Norway that they have been quite good and quite informative and really, say, educational for people. So it's a mixed bag.
So let me read some of this. These. I'll ask some of these questions, but oh, that's a good one. So what's the difference between parapsychology and occultism?
Well, parapsychology is a rigorous science, follows the methods from mainly taught from psychology, and there's protocols, and you have to have controls, and you have to have what is called replication. The experiments and results should be able to repeated by what is called independent researchers and that kind of things. That is, of course, not a part of occultism. And occultism is also, people tend to associate occultism with something bad or dark and something, at least within Christian communities. That is not, basically the truth. Occultus in Latin means hidden. So it's just aspects of the world that usually are hidden for most people.
Right, so it's been kept from us.
Yes. Occultism is more, say, about these hidden worlds and these hidden abilities and so on that is there. And parapsychology is somehow dealing with the same field, but in a totally different manner. Occultism is, say, existential. It's your personal somehow experience that makes is the validation of the reality. Whereas in parapsychology there is the things being able to be replicated and, as I say, follow strict scientific protocol. So they deal somehow with the same area, but in a totally different manner.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And what do you think is the connection, in your opinion, between normal and paranormal?
Well, I have, say, formulated a simple slogan that the paranormal is normal. So it's just we have somehow limited our scope, limited our perspective. And para is a Latin prefix meaning, or Greek prefix meaning beside. So paranormal is just what is beside normal. But if you look in that direction, suddenly it's part of what is normal. Expand your horizon. So it's not, it's just as a technical term, it's basically both things are reality, but paranormal is the lesser known reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we were talking about earlier, you also have a clairvoyance as well. I mean, I know there are different clairs. Do you have just the clairvoyance, or is there any others that you actually have for yourself?
I might have been losing some words. Could you please repeat?
So as we were talking earlier, you were saying how you've had some experiences with
Yes,
your
yes.
own clairvoyance, but do you?
Yes.
And there are different types of clairvoyance. There's a few different. Do you have any others than just the clairvoyance, or?
Well, I have had this telepathic experience, and what I have puzzled me most is but I cannot. I will not depend on it and call myself
Sure.
a psychic, taking customers or clients like that. But when I wake up in the morning, I tended to see things that would happen some hours later that day.
Right.
Yes.
Because of waking up out of that pure thought moment, and then you get something in. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And also, I would say that I have experience to see the future in advance, several years in advance. But then I did not at the time understand what I saw. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They show me. So my experience, one of those experiences, they show me a bunch of stuff. I see a lot of stuff. Some things I talk about, a lot of things I don't.
Yes.
Because you don't want to scare people too. But one of the things they showed me, so I was while I'm in meditation, I can actually talk just like this to them, and then they react. They touch me. I get touched from my face for yes and no answers daily, all day long, and then they tell me things as well. But they show me, like, sometimes in regular video or in a cartoon form. In a cartoon form, they showed me a man who looked similar like to me, who was writing on these scrolls. And I said, oh, it looks like he's writing something down. And then when I said that, they put a piece of paper in front of my face that has my handwriting on it. And I said, oh, what do you want me to write, a book or something? And then I got touched on my face for yes. Just yes and no answers. And I was like, oh, what am I going to write about? And then I heard in my mind, you. And I was like, me? I mean, what am I going to? And tell about. And then I heard life story. I was like, okay. But I didn't have time to do it then. It actually didn't happen until 4 years later, last September. But it was good because throughout those next couple of years, a lot of the stuff that ended up in the book was from those few years in there. But then I just I wrote it all down, and here it is, and then they also brought me I'm also able to channel, but sometimes they just bring messages to me, and they brought me these 25 messages for people to listen to that are going to help us to become better people and help us help other people become better people. So I wrote them in the book. When I submitted the book to the editor, I submitted all these paragraphs. I can't write for shit. I mean, everything is horrible. My grammar's horrible. But when I submitted those 25 messages, that's the only part of my book that didn't need to be edited. And she said, that's crazy. I don't need to edit any of this. It's perfect. I said, yeah.
Interesting. Yes.
Yeah. But that's how I get messages all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen some things that they just put in regular video, and it's like, wow, this is kind of cool. But some of it is not so great, and it's in the future, and a lot of it happened. Actually, one of the things that happened that I got 4 years ago, and then they told me about, was COVID.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So I was actually telling people when I was going out on the festival circuit doing readings for people. Some people I told, but I would ask, is it okay to tell this person? They would touch me for no, and I go, okay. So but then when it actually happened, I got like a bunch of messages from people saying they were glad they listened to me because I told them how to prepare as well. Then I got a bunch of messages from people who said, I wish I would have listened to you. I thought you were crazy. I said, I'm not crazy. You could listen now. So I know just through my own experience there that people can get these types of messages, but a lot of people, they don't pay attention to them. They
yes. And
of
also it's
right?
also, but it's also important then you have those people being totally closed off from this sphere of information. On the other hand, you have, of course, old hippies on LSD, and I know some of them here in my hometown. Yes. So how to deal with this field in a constructive way. And also, for instance, the books of yes, and famous English healer Matthew Manning, he had lots of great paranormal experiences, and some of them were quite confusing. So he has written about this in his early books. So it's to deal with this world in, say, a constructive, edificial, edifying manner is not always easy.
No, because not everybody listens. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are interested, and they are they do become interested because they've all seen the TV shows and the movies and that type of thing. And then as we were just saying, because of the TV shows and the movies, they just want to have that wow factor.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do hope that it does spark some people to actually look into it in the same manner that
I think so. Yes,
and hopefully your book will do that as well too. So
that's my hope, and also, as I said, because if you first open, there is also a famous magician, Israel Regardie. He was in fact a pupil of a student of Aleister Crowley. I don't like Crowley very much, but he was a gifted individual. Just his enormous ego somehow overshadowed his insights in a way. But Israel Regardie named this, say, vast field of information, this astral field, he named it the world of the great deceit, because there's so much chaos, just like surfing the internet electronically, lots of bad websites, lots of fake news and misinformation. So how to navigate this field of information? And also, so you, of course, if you are gifted or have some kind of what is called the spiritual guidance from inside, that's beautiful. But you should also beware of say dirty gurus, that just want your money and your sexual exploitation. There are so many stories about this. So as I said, it's an extremely valuable field to open to, but it's also difficult to navigate. So
I do some of that, I guess you could say, in my own practice of being who I am, that when I do come across someone who is not necessarily telling the truth about who they are and what they can actually do, I will absolutely out them. I will tell them. I will tell people, hey, don't follow this person because they're not actually doing what they say they can do. So and there's this one person who's out there who is channeling someone kind of famous called Abraham Hicks. And
I know those.
I tell them all the time, I said, Abraham Hicks, that the spirit of Abraham Hicks is only just a general spirit. They're not actually an angel or archangel. They're not privy to all that information. And if you want to channel someone, great. But if you're someone who's out there channeling someone and then you're charging everyone out there, you charge 500 people to come and watch you for $250, that's when I have a problem with it.
Yes.
You're giving them information that shouldn't cost a whole heck of a lot of money. So now you're no longer in the business of giving information. You're in the business of marketing yourself. And that's where I have the problem with that. But yeah, I mean, Abraham Hicks, I have a friend who was a medium who went to see the show, and I said, "Why did you go to the show? You're a medium. You can get information yourself. Why are you getting it from this other person?" I said, "You can do it your own." And they were like, "I never thought of it that way." I said, "Maybe you should." So
yes.
People just, they don't pick up on that, but again, it comes down to the TV shows, the movies. They pick up on the
also I will not say it's not possible to learn from the gurus or the teachers, of course, but as
take the bits and pieces that you need.
Yes, and on the other hand, it can perpetuate your own dependency, and you can somehow reduce your own agency in your own life, and that then somehow it's blocking for your own source.
Yes, absolutely. So can you just to dive into some more here, can you tell us a bit about the history of paranormal in the Western culture, past, present, future, all that stuff?
Yeah, if you give me 10 hours, I can of course do that.
Well, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's a big theme, of course, but just to make some basic statements, that these phenomena tended to be regarded more often as normal earlier times, and you have even philosophies that were open to them. For instance, if you go into, say, Stoicism, Gnosticism, and that kind of, and Neoplatonism, that was part of Renaissance philosophy, Hermeticism, and so. But as from about 1500 to 1700, we got in Western culture what is called the scientific revolution, and they became extremely say concerned about method. Everything should be, as I said earlier, experiments should be done according to method, and also they got an understanding of time and space that were quite limiting, and also causality. It was just when they discovered quantum physics in the early 20th century, somehow this say limiting beliefs about space and time were up for say revision again. So as I said earlier, one tended to regard these phenomena, say telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, and so on, as more say part of the natural order of things. But then in these say rather short historical period where a limited form of natural science somehow was having the grasp on every aspect of culture, we tended to say disregard these phenomena. But as I said, again, after quantum physics entered the stage, there has been at least some great physicists are open to these phenomena again. I often quote Brian Josephson. He won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1973. He's a professor in Cambridge, and he's an experienced meditator, and he's totally convinced about the existence of psychokinesis, moving mind over matter, and also about telepathy, and has written about these experiments. And so
kind of like the thing that I did in the refrigerator with the bowl of cherries.
Yes. Yeah, that would be psychokinesis or telekinesis, as they sometimes call it also.
Now, would you also agree that it's probably smart to do some type of do your homework on these different types of methods or type of experimentation before you actually try to do it? Because I tell people all the time, I mean, really don't mess with the Ouija boards, those types of things. Make sure you're going to do your homework, because you don't want to invite something in that you're not trying to invite in. Would you say that's a good practice?
Yes, I tend to think along the same lines. And as I said, the horror and entertainment aspect of it is tend to overshadow the real. So you should look at your life, and the Buddhists are very often better in dealing with these phenomena than, say, Western folks, because they say that you have to discernment. You have to discern.
Right.
Yes. So your, say, personal development is the most important thing for you. Your primary responsibility. And insofar these phenomena assist that process, they are excellent. Insofar they somehow confuse that process, you should be careful with it.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
But even like one of the questions here that I was going to mention before I read the question, but do you believe that indigenous people are closer to having these experiences as well? Because it seems like they figured it out a long time ago, and they still do very well with it. What's your thoughts on it?
Yes, they have a culture for not denigrating or denying these phenomena. And of course, if you tell your family at the breakfast table, you tell about some strong dream you have, and your father or mother say, "Oh, forget about it, it's just BS." You of course dismiss the information, or chances are you dismiss this information. But if you rather the culture is interesting, tell me more. Did these birds really speak to you? Did it guide you to the left or to the right? You know. So, and the indigenous people very often have strong cultures for somehow dealing in a constructive way with these phenomena. So that is very helpful to them, of course.
Yeah, especially with along the lines of the talking and getting the guidance from their spirit animals.
Yes. What totem, as they call totem animals, or in Norwegian Old Norse tradition is called fylja. You had some spirit animals that you could say communicate and get information and guidance for. So that's called
I get a lot of
fylja. Yeah,
I get a lot of that spirit animal stuff. Where I was doing readings for people yesterday at this festival, and I had this one woman sit in front of me, and she said, "What do you see?" I said, "Let me hold your hand and I'll connect with it." And I said, "Oh, I see this deer standing in front of you." But the deer walks in front of you, walks backwards, walks frontwards, walks backwards, back and forth all the time. And she said, "What's that mean?" I said, "Well, what the deer is telling me is you have a hard time making decisions. You're a very indecisive person. You always come up with something to do, but then you talk yourself out of it all the time. And she was like, yes, how the hell did you know that? I said, well, because you're talking to the freaking medium. That's how I know it. So, but, yeah, they ask me questions, but then they tend to forget who the heck they're talking to. And she's like, I have trouble with it all the time. And I said, well, what you're doing now is now you're taking yourself off of the correct path, because you're always on that incorrect path, because you can't figure out what you want to do in your own life. You're not actually helping anybody. You're not actually fulfilling your person by helping people, because you're always indecisive about what you need to do for yourself, let alone other people. And she's like, yes, oh my God, you're right. How do I fix that? I said, knock it off. That's how you fix it. You change your ways. That's what you do. But but that happened. I did 10 readings yesterday, and that was for 5 people, the same exact thing, because a lot of people have these issues, but not everybody's the same. But so tell me, so it says here you mentioned a few different types of alternative models
Yes.
of consciousness within your book. Can you give us an example of that?
Well, as I said, by habit, we tend to think of consciousness just, say, living inside my head or inside your head. But for instance, the great English or American English physicist David Bohm, he had a totally different view of that. He viewed the whole world as a hologram, where every little part contains information about the rest of the hologram.
Yes, so one is all type of thing.
Yes, and also the poetic expression from older times is the droplet reflects the universe.
Everything.
Yeah. So if you go to a droplet, you can see the mirroring all the rest of the universe. And he had that view, and therefore there is no strong division between mind and matter, really. And consciousness is not limited to my side. It's reflected through all the droplets throughout the whole hologram. So information is ever present in a way. And that model of consciousness, the holographic principle, that where consciousness is ever present throughout the universe, that of course is expanding our horizon and make it much easier to include these phenomena. And also David Bohm, he did lots of experiments in parapsychology and was convinced about the reality of these phenomena. So his model, this holographic model of the universe and consciousness is one that can be fruitful in this respect.
So, and I got another question here, but I want to ask something else within this question, because it says, can these type of phenomenons that we have going on in the world affect science? But what is your actual opinion on that as well? Because I know some of the scientific community that I've spoken to don't really believe in this, but I think they do. But I think they're just trying to hide the fact that they actually do, because they want. Because I mean, a lot of scientists in this world, they're only going to give you information because they're allowed to by the people who back them monetarily. But I think they hide a lot of it too, because they don't want us to really know what's actually going on in the world. So
yes,
what do you think about that?
Well, you can lose scholarship and tenure and respect and funding and money, and so if you somehow go off the beaten track and declare a belief in telepathy, for instance, so that can be difficult, and many have experienced that, but there are happening things. I like to refer to an article, because the most famous psychological journal in the world, most prestigious, is American Psychologist, and it's released by American Psychological Association, and they printed an article in 2018 in the May issue. It's about these phenomena, and they concluded that these phenomena are real, but we do not have a satisfactory explanatory model for them. Yes, and yes, and
shows, right?
yes, but you know, as I said, this is very radical. People say, some people, skeptics say, oh, there are no scientific evidence for these phenomena, but there is scientific evidence. And famous psychologist writing this article, Professor Edsel Cardenia, and he has experienced telepathy and that kind of things himself. So people of the scientific bent should really check out this article, Professor Edsel Cardenia, and it's called The Experimental Evidence for Parapsychological Phenomena. and it's the May issue 2018 in American Psychologist. So that's a very valuable article if people are interested in the science about. And he also argues from quantum physics and other models of consciousness, making these things understandable. So there is movement in the scientific community. That's my point. Yeah,
it just there's a little bit. I mean, I remember a few years ago when scientists actually, even in the Catholic religion, actually came out and said, yes, there actually is a soul when it does move on from your body, and we do know that spirit does live outside the body. We call them, they are in heaven or wherever they are, but we do admit that they actually are, and it's just which kind of defeats the purpose of them, spouting out to everybody that, if you don't do good here, you're going to go to hell. Well, and you're going to burn in hell. But how can an actual pure energy actually burn in hell? Because it can't, but kind of contradicts their own selves. But I mean, is the reason of the way science handles things out here in the world? I mean, is that one of the reasons why you wrote your book yourself, to bring information
the
out?
deepest motivation I like, when there are phenomena that are real and people say they are not real, I am getting intrigued by that, and so somehow just I like to, as I said, expand a horizon both for myself and for other people in a way. And there are lots of good and exciting stories in this field, and it is important for our own well-being to expand the horizon to include aspects of reality that is, as I perceive them, very valuable to us, and tells something about our true nature and that. So
on that completely. I just think what happened is a long time ago, we just decided we weren't going to teach ourselves or each other about this because we wanted, we relinquished the power to a certain group of people a long time ago. We need to take it back. And they are, we come into this world, you wake up in a baby body, and you got your mom and dad above you going, I'm your mom and dad. And you're going, I don't know who the hell you are, but okay. And they raise you up, but you come back into this world, and as a brand new soul, and you're pure and you know a lot of things, but then the world throws a bucket of bleach over top of you, sanitizes you of everything, and then they teach you a bunch of lies and stuff like that, so they can have control and power over you. But I think the only way we get back to this being part of our regular lives instead of just bits and pieces is learning to teach each other the original way that we were supposed to be taught in this world. But we have 1% of the population here who is in control of everything, and they're not going to relinquish that power because they like the power and the greed and the money and all that stuff. So, but I hope someday, that's why I'm glad like people like yourself, are willing to put these books out there, to put this information out there, to hopefully continuously wake people up to the idea that this is real, this is actually happening, and that we need to know about it and need to understand it. You need to decipher it in a way that it's understandable for everyone in this world,
Thank you. No, the book has been I allow myself to show it again so people more easily recognize it.
Yes, absolutely. We can't just not hear about it. We got to see it.
Yes. It has won a couple of awards in the US. It won the Parapsychological Association Book Award, and that's quite prestigious. And Dean Radin, probably most famous parapsychologist today in the world, he is very happy about it and has said there is no better choice as an introduction to these phenomena.
Also, like the picture of the third eye in the middle.
Yes, and also this golden network of consciousness,
all connected.
Exactly. So it has been quite well received by that part of the scientific community being interested in these phenomena. So I'm quite happy about the reception. So I hope people will find it and enjoy it. And
do that. Tell my audience where they can find your book.
Amazon is the most easy place to find it. So
that's where people can find mine. It's easy that way.
Yes.
So is all they have to do is just type in your name or type in the name of the book and then it'll pop up?
Yes, it will. So, and if they remember my first name, it will pop up very easily. Terje
not too many people out there with your first name.
Exactly. So it's very
great.
easy to find. Thank you. Yeah.
And do you also have a website as well that they could find?
Well, if they go to Amazon, there's a link to the book's website at Facebook, and a little bio about myself and so.
Cool beans. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today. I'm glad you were able to take out some time and tell my audience about what you do, because I hope that they become interested in it, but I'm like super interested in it because again, like I just delved into the what's happening now, but never really paid attention to what was happening in the future. I guess maybe because when I was younger and I was watching the TV shows, I just got hooked on the TV shows. But then when it started happening, I mean, it's always been happening to me throughout my life. I've been seeing spirits ever since I was 3 years old. But I just never knew why. But now I could know why, because of not just my own self asking questions, but now there are, like yourself, you're putting information out there that was from a long time ago with people having some of the same experiences, but I didn't really thought to look into that. But I'm going to look into it now. Now, I myself am not a book reader, but my wife will read the book. So
great.
And she'll tell me about it. Is the book, is it just in a paperback book, or can you actually?
No, you can get it in an ebook, and it's
awesome.
even a beautiful read audio book in Audible at Amazon.
Really? Who did the audio version? Did you do it yourself?
No, a famous English voice actor called Robbie Stevens, I think. He's the voice of many video games all over the world.
So he's got the voice for it.
Yes, and he is an excellent. He's got this British Queen's English, as they call it, you know. So.
Yeah, every time I hear somebody from Britain, I'm like, oh my God, I love that. I love the sound of that voice.
You know, it's a kind of music just to listen to his voice. So I like it quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend who used to have a GPS unit in his car, and every time he liked driving around this car using it because it was a woman's voice speaking in this British accent.
Yes.
He was like, I keep falling in love with her every time I want to get in my car. But
I can understand. No, I'm quite happy about the audio version. As I said, he's rather famous, this guy. So
people quality. Keep telling me they want me to do an audio version of my book, because even though whenever they buy my book and they've heard my voice already, they say it sounds like me reading it to them, but they would actually like to hear me reading it to them.
Yes,
so.
But why not?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot, unless I screw it up a lot. But I'll just keep trying. Yeah, I'll probably screw up my own words, but I get it. But I appreciate you coming on the show today, and I really enjoyed. I'm just going to continue reading this, but I'm going to have my wife check out your book and read the book, because I'm really interested in it. And not only do I want her to read it, I want everyone that I know who will read this, because I believe that too. I believe that they need to know the history of this. It isn't just the TV shows and movies. That's just a little part of it. You know, they need to know the whole part of it, not just.
It's a great philosophical tradition.
Yes, and to see that it isn't just one person in one type of area. It's happening out throughout the world. And then
universal phenomenon.
Yeah, and if they read it and they figure this out, maybe they'll figure out that we're actually all connected in this world as well. You know,
that would be to my taste. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So again, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I hope everyone out in this world is going to come across this book, come across you, and find out some more information. Is there any one thing, one last word you would like to tell people before we exit out of here?
That's a good one.
I stumped you on that one.
Start your morning asking for guidance for your life, and follow that guidance.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. I always do the same thing. I always tell them, before you get up and start moving around, try to ask someone else to help you move around, so that way you don't feel like you're walking around blindly through your life.
Yes, some of the same is.
Not too bad, right? All right. Well, all right, everyone out there, I hope you have a great day, and thanks for hanging out here with Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson and me. And as I always tell everybody at the end of my show, be good and don't do any stupid shit. Have a great day. Bye-bye.